Yo, Sanju Uche here, people. What's going on? It's that time of the week again where we talk about Gundam Build Divers. Of course, this week is episode 3. So be sure to rate, comment, subscribe, and let me know what you thought about the episode if you watched it, as well as if it's a review. But without further ado, let's get into it. So, episode 3, titled The Protector, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm remembering this right. But let's see. First impressions. You know, where episode 2 was concerned, if you've watched my review of episode 2, I did mention that episode 2 really excelled in laying the groundwork in terms of the rules and essentially giving you a scope of how the GBN is set up in terms of the world scope. Sorry, but with episode 3, I'm not gonna lie, it really continues the consistency and quality of what the writers have been trying to portray with episodes 1 and 2, and continues that. It's at least as good as episode 2. Episode 3 really excels because it finally starts to drop hints of what the overarching or the overall plot will be for this series, at least for now. Or putting it another way, I guess the overarching threats, essentially, some hints of it. It's good because it actually pushes the series along. So pacing wise, the series is slowly but surely starting to pick up at adequate pace. And of course, I must say, even the action that was in this episode, it was definitely, I'd say, a step above episode 2. But getting into the nitty-gritty of the episode, we do start off with I guess you could put it as a flashback to episode 0 of this series. There was an initial episode that came out with the champion Kyoya versus, I forgot his opponent's name, but yeah. And it's here that we see some hints being dropped of the overarching threats, or I guess the situation that the series will be tackling in terms of the protagonist and what they'll have to handle going down the line. And it's something I failed to mention in my review last week, which is this term called Mass Diver, which we find out by the latter half of this episode is essentially players that illegally modify their Gunpla data to improve their Gunpla's performance in battle, and as a result, it's apparently causing bugs in the GBN. So there's that. Overall, the first half of this episode was really just for funs and giggles. It was kind of fast-paced as we quickly go from Riku and Yukio basically in an after-school setting, going to the GBN cafe basically. And it's here that we see Momoka, their other classmate that's been trying to get into play football, basically join in, and we see her join in as a guest. And apparently when you join in as a guest, your avatar becomes a Haro, which is funny. It's here that Kyoya, the champion himself, comes in as this series mass man, which was pretty obvious it was him. So there's that. Of course, it's at this point, it's pretty obvious why he's coming in. He's undercover as a beginner to basically investigate what's happening with the mass divers, since most mass divers seem to be beginners or intermediate level players. The crew goes on a serial mission and all hell breaks loose, essentially. I guess synopsis over. Now, what I say this episode really does well, it's in terms of the battle sequences in the latter half of this episode, pretty good, definitely better than episode 2 in terms of enjoyability for me. It was good seeing Riku, Yukio, and Kyoya working as a team. Of course, the entire episode in terms of the battle sequences and in terms of the environment was a complete G Gundam reference. If I'm not mistaken, the environment they were fighting in at the last phase of their serial battle mission was Hong Kong. For those of you who have probably watched G Gundam, you would probably know what I mean when Domon Kashu basically went to Hong Kong, met up with Master Asia, and they were in that city where the rest of the other members of the upcoming Shuffle Alliance basically were taken over by DG cells and all of that. But it was interesting. It was a complete G Gundam reference. The fact that they were even up against the Devil Gundam or Dark Gundam for the English viewers speaks for itself. Even how Kyoya himself defeated the Dark Gundam at the end, it definitely seemed like a reference to this Shining Finger sword, if you know what I mean. So that was definitely cool in terms of the references. As I said, Build Fighters, well, the Build series on a whole, does well in terms of pushing references to other series out there. It's basically a good love letter to Gundam fans in terms of seeing references and certain what if scenarios in terms of this mech versus this mech. So that was definitely cool. On the character front, it continues. Episode 3 continues what episode 2 started in terms of it is cliche, but it is in a sense still a positive in terms of what they've started in terms of making Riku the protagonist of this series a bit more interesting, in terms of his drive to become better. And even though he's started off playing, or I guess, Gunpla battle for fun, it shows that he's really interested in improving himself as a pilot. So characterization wise, or I guess character development, not much, but it's there and it's still interesting to see. I hope they don't beat us over the head too much with, I'm feeling frustrated, I need to, improve. Yeah, we get it. I hope they don't make it stay that way too long by people giving him speeches, even though it more like will happen, but I just hope they handle his character in a dynamic fashion going forward. So there's that. I must say by the end of the episode, we were introduced to this hooded figure, which I'm pretty sure is involved with the group that's responsible for the mass divers and the overarching threat. So there's definitely that to consider as well. The episode was pretty fast paced, but it didn't feel, it wasn't too fast, honestly. So pacing, action wise, the episode was good. References to G Gundam, definitely good. The choreography of the fight itself was definitely good. And even going back to the pacing, they showed some nice shots of them going through the different phases of their mission. But it wasn't really a problem. It was nice. There were some nice shots going from phase 1 to 4, because I believe the final phase of their mission is phase 5 when they face the Dark Gundam or Devil Gundam. But all in all, it was good. Pacing was decent to me. Because honestly, the first half of this episode, as comedic as it is, if it had stretched out any longer, yeah, it would have started to get to me, honestly. So I'm glad they actually went into the action and basically went through to the final mission with some nice choreographed, nice art as per usual here and there. It wasn't a bad episode at all. All in all, this episode is at least a 7 to a 7.5, just like last week for me. In conclusion, I must say, yeah, establishing some hints at least where the overarching arc is concerned, our threats, good pacing, moving forward in the series. Definitely love this episode. But anyway, let me know what you guys thought about the episode. I loved it. Looking forward to the next episode, which seems like it's going to be more along the lines of a training episode for the crew. So yeah, there's gonna be that. But anyway, Sandra Uchiha, rate, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you thought about this review, and I'll see you guys in the next one.